That's what we used to call them.
I think he's still that. He's on the back road. Okay, the time is approximately 7:02 and the p.m. The January 9th, 2020 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting will now come to order. Okay, we'll first have a prayer by Mr. Bob Markley. Be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our country's flag.
Our Father which art in heaven, we come before thee this day as a township of people gathered together in a community to try to support each other and better each other's lives. And we are grateful for the wonderful blessings which we enjoy as a community, grateful for all these public servants who give so generously of their time and efforts to watch over and protect our interests. And Father, as we assemble today to study the issues before us, we pray that we might have wisdom and compassion and a heart of love for each other. And we ask these things humbly and thank thee in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any changes to the stated agenda?
To approve.
Second.
Okay. With a quorum, all in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Let the record show that the motion to adopt tonight's agenda has been approved. Okay, on the mayor's report tonight, I most definitely want to thank Bud McKelvey and his public works staff for all the trimming and mulching at our new community senior center in preparation for our 40th anniversary celebration, and also Sue Stool for her staff for the preparation for our ribbon cutting coming up next week. And I'll now yield the floor to the vice mayor.
Good evening. I believe our Knox County Sheriff's Officer liaison is here and would like to say a few words. Brad Hall? We move it along here.
All I want to say is just we've had a rash of car burglaries and car thefts recently. Most of the dates that I looked at were between Christmas Day on the 25th to the 29th. And it was published in the Farragut Press, I believe, about the Waterford subdivision, along with the Far Drive addresses behind Sam and Andy's. We have had 9 cars broken into in that subdivision, a couple cars stolen. But the main thing is the cars have been unlocked, and then the 2 cars that were stolen, the keys were actually left inside of the cars. Also, out of several of those cars were handguns that were taken. So, we're just trying to get the word out to people as we have in previous years. Please lock your cars. Don't leave anything of value in your car. Computer bags have been taken, iPads, computers laying on the seats in the cars, things like that. Just try not to leave anything. Get the word out to your friends, family, coworkers. Lock your cars. Don't leave anything in sight in the car. If you're going to leave something in the car, please lock it in the trunk. Just last night, we had a couple reports in the Fox Den subdivision. A couple cars were broken into. The cars were unlocked again. One of those cars had a gun in it. The car was stolen in Village Green. The car was unlocked and the keys were in it. So we're just trying to get the word out to people. Please lock your cars. Put things of value in the trunk or carry them in the house, because most of the time you're going to find these burglars don't want to break out windows and take a chance on making noise or somebody having a car alarm. They go to car. We've numerous videos, checking doors, seeing cars are unlocked, and then they get in them and take what's of value that they can just trade, sell, whatever on the street. So that's all. Just want to let you all know what's going on.
Thank you. I appreciate the update. I also wanted to thank John Schoonmaker for joining us. He's our county commissioner for the 5th District and very passionate for the cause of town of Farragut, and we always appreciate his attendance at our meetings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Does any of the other aldermen have anything else to report?
No, sir.
Okay, if not, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the posted minutes?
No, sir.
None?
Can I make a correction for the December 11th tourism workshop minutes? I know it says consensus, and technically it was a consensus, but I did not support the 3%. And I would really just like to say, just have Alderman Pavlin dissented, or whatever needs to be added to that. So with that amendment, I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Let's see here, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let the record show the adjusted minutes will be recorded as official minutes of the December 12th, 2019 Farragut Board, Mayor, and Alderman Tourism Workshop. Okay, next will be business items. Tonight, we have 2 business items to review and consider.
Vote on the 12th separately, or? No?
fine.
Okay. Sorry,
It's just a workshop.
I apologize.
Okay, start off with approval of right-of-way and easement purchase for the Virtue Road construction project at 12300 Kingston Pike.
Good evening. As you know, for the last several months, we've been in the process of purchasing right-of-way and easements for the Virtue Road project. That project extends from 700 feet south of Kingston Pike to 2,200 feet south of Broadwood Drive. Virtually the entire western side of the project is Willow Creek Golf Course. Now, we feel like our designers have done an excellent job at limiting the impact to all of the adjacent properties for that project. Unfortunately, there's only about 18 feet of right-of-way on the western side, 18 feet from the center of the road. This is a matter of requesting approval for our acquisition. It's, as I said, there's a limited impact even to the Willow Creek Golf Course. Fee simple right-of-way is only 3,156 square feet. There's 0.122 acre of slope easement and 0.156 acre of temporary construction easement. Our offer is $74,459, but that includes $12,559 for the actual right-of-way and easements and $61,900 for replacement of fencing and trees, which is a cost to cure. I'll point out that with construction of this project, just about all of the trees on the western side of the road within a certain distance from the road will be lost. And that will expose the golfers and motorists to each other during that. So this cost to cure includes $16,000 for installation of a privacy fence at 2 tee areas and $45,900 for replacement of trees on the golf course property. Staff recommends approval of payment of $74,459 to Willow Creek Golf Course for right-of-way and easements for the planned improvements to Virtue Road.
I'm going to move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Can I just ask, do we know what kind of, have they picked out the trees they want to replace them with? Do they?
Yes,
Okay.
and I think it's an assortment. What this has been based upon is $300 per tree, which is a pretty reasonable cost. That's generally the installation cost is about the same as the cost for the plant.
Okay. And so how big are these trees? Do we know? I mean, I just feel
I'm not
terrible
sure.
for them that we're taking so
I'm not
much
sure.
out, but I know it
And
happens.
really, it is up to the golf course what they do with this cost to cure. I do know that the golf course has been planting trees already
Okay.
in looking forward to this project.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, it looks like they've been planting some down near the roundabout.
That's what I'm told,
Yeah.
yes.
That's all I had.
I'm curious about the fencing. It's wood, a wooden fence?
It's a wooden privacy fence. I want to say they're looking at an 8-foot. Well, no, I apologize. That is wrong. They're looking at a chain link fence with the slats for privacy. You see that a lot around tennis courts.
Yeah. And how long are these going to be around each tee box? Are we talking substantial
It's two
length?
tee boxes. They've got it's $50 a square. I'm sorry, $50 a linear foot. That'd be 320 linear feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Are those, will they eventually come out when the trees eventually grow over, or are they planning on leaving that fence in place?
Oh, the fence will be left in place.
Okay,
Fence anyway, so.
Right.
okay.
Okay, any more discussion?
I have none.
Okay, I have a motion with a second on the floor. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes?
Any noes? Okay, let the record show that the motion has been approved. Next will be approval of Resolution R 2020-01, appointment of municipal judge.
Yes, sir. In accordance with the Town of Farragut Municipal Code, Chapter 12, Section 12-2, the office of the municipal judge shall be filled by a resolution of appointment by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Keith Alley is our current municipal judge. He was first appointed in 2016 and has agreed to serve another term. The motion is to approve Resolution R 2020-01, appointment of Keith Alley as the Farragut Municipal Judge.
Approve?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
I got a question. Is this a 2-year term? Is that correct?
It's a one-year term.
1-year term.
And I assume that he's agreeable and he's aware of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Too bad.
Go up, you never know.
Too bad. So, well, you don't shut.
He's the judge for the next year.
One of them, oh, by the ways. Okay, looks like I have a motion with a second on the floor. All in favor, vote by saying yes.
Yes.
Any noes? Okay, let the record show that the motion to approve Resolution R 2020-01 to appoint Keith Alley as the Town of Farragut's municipal judge has been unanimously approved. I would congratulate him, but he's not here. Okay, next we have one ordinance tonight on the agenda for a public hearing on the first reading. Ordinance 20-01 is an ordinance to add Title V, Municipal Finance and Taxation, by adding Chapter 1, Hotel Motel Tax, to the Farragut Municipal Code.
Thank you, Mayor. The Town of Farragut started its tourism program in February of 2018 when we hired our first part-time tourism coordinator. Part of that program's goals have been to increase the number of tourists and visitors coming into our community that will spend money at our hotels and our shops and our restaurants. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen have had a goal in their strategic plan for several years now to have a common funding plan for tourism that we could have established just for this program. The Tennessee General Assembly back in 2018 authorized the Town of Farragut to be able to establish an occupancy tax for hotel motel occupancy and a rate not to exceed 4% on those that are staying in hotels. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen are required to adopt the ordinance by 2/3 vote of the governing body, and the proceeds from the tax must be used for tourism development. If established, this ordinance would authorize the town to implement the tax up to 3% of the hotel room rate to visitors on a per-night stay. If the transient stays in a hotel for more than 30 consecutive days, they would not be required to pay the tax. Hotels would be required to collect and remit payment to the town by the 20th day of each month preceding the month or delinquent taxes would be owed. And the effective date of this ordinance would be March 1st, 2020. Our revenue estimates that we have looked at regarding the tax are between $339,000 and $468,000 per year. We had discussion at our last workshop in December to talk about a budget and preparations for the program. That would cover personnel costs, marketing, different promotional activities. at a total cost of $276,600. And if there are any remaining funds over and above those operating expenses that we have, then those funds would go into fund balance to be used for tourism-related activities. The Tourism Advisory Committee did meet on this back in September of 2019 and recommended approval of a 3% hotel motel tax for tourism development, and we would recommend approval as well. And so the proposed motion tonight is to approve on first reading ordinance 20-01, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that the board may have.
I move to approve ordinance 20-01 on first reading to add Title V, Municipal Finance and Taxation of the Farragut Municipal Code by adding Chapter 1, Hotel Motel Tax.
I'll second it.
Okay, tonight, looks like we have quite a few people signed up to speak. I hope everyone did pick up an agenda at the front door. If you did not, please get one. On the back of that will be a read for you. It is a very short read. It's comment protocol, and we will be following comment protocol tonight. So if you agree to abide by that, then please turn your blue slip into our town recorder. And if we can start out with
Okay,
your choice.
Our first speaker is Bob Markley at 424 Heathermore Drive.
Okay, Mr. Markley, please step up front. Huh? Excuse me?
I would prefer to let someone else go first. I just kind of want to hear the discussion. If no one else would prefer, I'll go ahead.
We have 6
That's up
signed
to your
up,
your group of speakers.
Yeah, what's
Oh,
your
yeah.
name, sir? You were my second one anyway.
Please state your name and address for the record, and remember you're on live TV and you'll have 5 minutes.
Darren Talent. My address is 1300 Hickory Oak Lane, 37919. I'm the GM at the Hampton Inn and Suites here in Farragut. I just want to make a few comments today about the tax being voted on tonight. We as hoteliers continue to be a bit disappointed because we have yet to see a clear mission or plan that will develop heads and beds or increase revenue for our hotels by implementing this tax. As stated in the presentation by John Wisenant, the Director of Tourism and Tennessee Hospitality Association, the purpose of a hotel tax should be primarily to bring heads and beds or increase revenue for our hotels. This is so important, as he stated, because once they are here in the town, they will spend money over and over and over again. None of the proposed budget items that I can see, in my opinion, will produce heads and beds for our hotels, and this includes the signage, visitor center, or the field enhancements. We're also unclear on what the marketing efforts will produce as far as revenue for our hotels. If I read correctly, the money in the budget is not adding fields, but rather upgrading the turf. I believe that we would all agree that the fields we have in Farragut are not enough to produce large-scale tournaments. In addition, if the goal is to bring smaller tournaments, if that is indeed the goal, are the citizens of Farragut okay removing their access from these fields for entire weekends? Have we received all the input from the community on this? I'm not a citizen of Farragut, but I feel like that question should be asked to them. In addition, in particular, I wanted to discuss the visitor center that is on the proposed budget for close to $400,000 or $375,000. And I believe firmly, in my opinion, that this would be a very poor investment. Older age visitors might go to a visitor center, and I emphasize might. I think we can all agree that we live in a digital age now, and even the older population is becoming more tech savvy. Additionally, our hotels are visitor centers. My front desk team, the rest of our hotels here that are represented, front desk team, and entire staff do a great job of pushing our guests to Farragut-only businesses. There is room for improvement, I believe, absolutely. But let's hold some low-cost training Maybe the town holds a low-cost training seminars for our front desk employees. I would be very disappointed to see this tax money used for something that has a lot of overhead costs and in my impact would not bring increased revenue to our hotels. We have seen an expense budget, but one thing we have not seen is the economic impact that this tourism program is going to provide, or even estimated economic impact. We would like to see this. I also wanted to make a few comments on the new supply of hotels coming to West Knoxville. We're seeing the largest supply of growth in West Knoxville since the 2012 timeframe. With more supply comes more competition, especially with no new large-scale demand generators. The supply has already had a large impact. In November, for the running 3 months data, my competitive set, so the competitors in my STAR report, were down 7% year over year. The competitors in my set consist of just Farragut and Cedar Bluff hotels. We currently have a competitive advantage over many of these hotels in the city of Knoxville and Lenoir City. Group and corporate account business most definitely look at all-in cost. By having this tax put into place, we're now on an even playing field with taxes, and we feel that we will have to lower our rates to compete with this. 3% might not seem like a huge difference, but it is to us and our several thousand group and corporate account room nights that we have annually. Lastly, and I'll be quick here, I understand this tax will be implemented on March the 1st, 2020. We feel that that's rather quickly and doesn't give us much time to prepare for this. I currently, just speaking for my hotel, have several hundred group rooms on the books for the rest of this year. We have already quoted them rates on the contract, signed contracts in place, binding, at the current 14.25% rate. While I know we've had people disagree with us that groups and large corporate accounts don't look at all-in cost, we will have to reduce our rates on these groups by 3%, and we'll eat the cost on these for the groups that are already in place. This would directly affect our revenues and profits for the rest of 2020. I would urge the board to push this tax, if passed, later on the calendar year, or better yet, into next year, so we can have time to contact all our groups on the books we already have contracted and budget appropriately.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay, thank you.
Darren, can I ask you while you're up there, what are groups, how does that work? What does that mean? You have a group coming in. Can you explain to me, like,
So
one example?
Yeah, a definition of a group is a group of reservations. It's 10 or more rooms coming in that have the same length of stay pattern. Example might be a sports team, might be a corporate company coming in that has 20 group rooms for 3 nights during the week. That's an example.
Okay.
Yep.
And Darren, I'm sorry, you might have said this. I'm sure I missed it. How many group reservations do you have currently booked for 2020?
I'm not going to disclose that. I have competitors
Okay.
here. So. And my boss is here.
Darren.
But it's suffice to say, it's a part of your business that you rely on.
Group and negotiated is about 30% of my business.
30? You said 30%?
Our second speaker is Scott Pasha.
My name's Scott Pasha, 335 Augusta Lane, Lenoir City, Tennessee. I'm a regional vice president of operations with McKibben Hospitality. We operate the Hampton Inn and Suites here in Farragut, along with 5 other hotels in West Knoxville and over 80 hotels, mainly through the southeast. I've been in the hotel business in West Knoxville for the past 20 years after graduating from UT Hospitality School, and I've been to meetings and workshops on this subject in Farragut over the last 7 years. In those meetings, I've often heard cherry-picked studies quoted from both sides to prove a point that, in my opinion at the time, had really nothing to do with the real world we operate in today. So while you generously gave me 5 minutes, I wanted to share a recent example of a real-world situation that I think shows the impact of a 3% change in total spend for a guest. And please pay attention to that phrasing, total spend. We had a lead on a quarterly group at one of my hotels for 250 room nights for a group that comes 4 times a year, quarterly. And as it often happens in our world today, the savvy travel planner came to us came to the table with a total spend amount that they had budgeted, okay, for each of the group stays throughout the year. So when this happens, basically we have to back into a number that will meet their budget needs, and in order for them to take it, obviously. So after calculating a rate based on the budget, we ran an incremental profit analysis that determined we would make about $2.12 per room night. Doesn't sound like a lot, right? It's not. In this example, with the rate that we had to quote this particular group, an additional 3% tax thrown in out of the blue, or after 7 years, however you want to look at it, would have changed our profit by $3.57 per room night. Basically taking a group that was profitable by about $2,000 to a group all of a sudden that if we want to take it, we're going to lose money. So when this happens, obviously we would walk away from that business. And what would happen is that business would move a couple miles to another area outside of Farragut, and 4 times a year their travelers would come to town, stay somewhere else, and that occupancy tax would go somewhere else. But more importantly, so would the sales tax. They would eat, they would dine, they would shop, they would do all of that, somewhere else. So, I really think, people outside of our business don't realize at times how tight our margins are. They see Marriott, they see Hilton, they see IHG, they see Comforts, they see these big names and they think big dollars. We make these dollars one at a time. And a 3% change in the total spend for a customer, particularly a large corporation that has, a large amount of volume or a large group, it matters. And they look at it. That's the way that it's looked at. The other thing, Darren made mention of, it's been a tough few months. And part of the reason is there's new supply that's already come in. And most people outside of our world don't know that we're in the middle of about 700 new rooms in an 8-mile radius to where we stand today. And as Darren mentioned, we have a built-in advantage currently of that 3% gap. That's something that for hotels that he quoted the last 3 months, but I'll say the rolling 12 months, down about 5%. We're projecting most hotels probably out here down another 2% in 2020. So if you want to put at risk, not only when you lose the occupancy tax because somebody chooses to go somewhere else, you're losing everything else. So I just really want, for everyone to really think about that. I appreciate over the last 7 years, I will say that you guys have allowed us to be heard. But in my honest opinion, I don't think we've been listened to. So my hope would be that, Darren, my other counterparts, and we do have competitors. That's the reason he wanted to give specifics. But, one thing I'll say about the hospitality business, we stick together. It's a really tough business with long hours. That part is very true. And if this truly was going to build our business and build our revenues, we've got a lot of smart people. Why in the world would we spend time over the last 7 years showing up to meetings like this to speak out against it? So that's the last thing I'd like to say. So thank you.
So, Mr. Page, I have a question for you. So my intent in supporting the tax, at the end of the day, I know this sounds kind of foreign because government's here to help you, right? Doesn't seem to resonate. Yeah. But truly it is to drive up your occupancy.
Okay.
And we would probably average about $450,000 a year, roughly.
Okay.
So cash coming in, forget the budget. I'm not thrilled with the visitor center. I don't know why it's on here. I thought we took it off. Did we?
We took it off.
Okay, I was like, what the world? Okay, good. So, yeah, so that's off.
Yeah,
so
we
there's,
took
so
it off
there we go.
in our discussion.
Okay, so this is not updated. Okay, so I know my family spends an exorbitant amount of time in hotels. I will be in a hotel between Muncie, Indiana, Long Beach, California, Orlando, Florida, and everywhere in between from last weekend actually until April 1st.
Okay.
And as I do that travel as a sports parent, I know I'm generating sales tax in those communities. And so my intent is, and always has been, to take this money and invest it in activities that will absolutely keep you all full as much as we can. With that being said, if you had $450,000 a year that was turned right back to you, what would you want to do with it?
From a hotel
Yes.
perspective, first thing I would do is basically get, a group consensus. But in all honesty, me personally, I love Farragut. I've lived in, I don't live here now, but I have. The marketing dollars of social media, that's great. We don't have enough to sell. We need the word demand generator was used. We need a demand generator.
It's
we
coming.
need something.
18 months away.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
And
right.
Top Golf is great. I love Top Golf. We operate in many cities with Top Golf. Top Golf will provide some room nights, no doubt. The majority of those will fall on the weekend, okay? And I hate to say it, the majority of those room nights are probably going to end up in Knoxville because people coming to Top Golf, they're not searching Farragut. I hate to say it that way, but it's the God's honest truth. People have I opened the Homewood Suites in Turkey Creek. I've been in this area. Our guests, I've talked to thousands of them. They don't know Farragut. They know Knoxville. And why that's important is because when they plug in their smartphone in Hilton or Marriott, Knoxville, it starts from city center out. And a lot of people, Knoxville's done some amazing things downtown. The other thing about Top Golf, I'll tell you, because I've been to 5 of them now, ton of millennials. Those millennials are going to stay downtown, Uber out to Top Golf, Uber back, go to Market Square. I hate to say it that way and be blunt, but that's the God's honest truth. I'm super familiar with Top Golf. I went to a 3-hour presentation at Pinehurst a couple years ago where they talked about their millennial focus and exactly what they were trying to do to spread the game of golf that kind of was on the downturn because millennials don't want to spend 4.5 hours on a golf course. So I love that it's coming. Trust me, I love Top Golf.
I'd like to comment on that. I think the goal of our tourism department and the task we're putting before them is to put our name on the map so people know where Farragut is and will want to stay here for a lot of reasons that you met, restaurants, shopping, but we have great hotels, and we think if they come to Top Golf,
not going to come enough to fill the hotels consistently.
well, this is just one item. We're not saying that the whole tourism program is supported by one
And he
retail
asked me
business.
for $450,000, I would tie something else in that would give us
Well,
more of
what
a
would that be?
business. It could be I'm not opposed to sports. There's a lot of great. Look at Rocky Top. Look what it's doing. I hear that over and over and over again. Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge have it figured out. Tourism, they, something like that. I've seen, but it's got to be Top Golf, in my opinion, from my experience and everything that I've learned, is not going to provide 7-day-a-week business and return business. As much as I love it, I've been to 6 of them. I've been to each one of them once.
Well, let me ask you another question. We've had workshops, we've had a lot of meetings. You haven't been to, as far as I know, any of those in the past couple months.
Yeah.
You've been to them in the past, but not recently. One of the things that...
Can I answer that?
Well, let me finish first.
Okay.
One of the things that we brought up was, and actually, Alderman Markley, back when he was on this board, suggested we put billboards up on the interstate to attract people to our town. And we asked the hotel people that were present at one of the workshops if billboards work, if they're effective. And we were told no. The next day I'm driving down the interstate and there's a huge billboard, Hampton Inns, right out here by the way station. So.
Ours?
What?
Ours.
It must be.
Yeah. But, and can I?
Well, my point is that's something I think with all the people that travel through our town on 40 and 75 with 2 interstates connecting right here in our town, I mean, we need to attract those people. We need to get those people to know that our town is here and what we have to offer. And I'm all for billboards, and I know, I shouldn't say that, not in our town, but
Oh, gosh, not another
But down the
ordinance
road.
change,
We
Ron,
need them
really?
seen somewhere else.
Can I respectfully reply to that? The billboard, yes, we do have one. We opened the hotel in 2011 with two. In my 20 years with McKibben, it's the first billboards I've ever had, and it was only because our interstate visibility isn't great. And it was to help a little bit. First thing we did a couple years in is drop one of them. The other one's probably going to be, especially after this meeting, it's probably going to go away at some point too. But I would like to address the schedule because I think that's important to know. I spend 60 to 70% of the nights of my year in other cities other than Knoxville. And I'm not only telling you that because I would love to be at every single one of them, but I'm on the road a lot. And, and I know Darren, has been to a lot. We've had other representatives with McKibben. I guess the other thing I would say is after 7 years, let's make a final decision and move forward.
We're going to.
Mr. Pesha,
But make an informed one. Measure twice, cut once.
I agree with you, and I want to make a couple comments to defend you.
Thank you.
So I have, I'm actually working 2 jobs right now. My wife's a physician. I've got children. I miss meetings, and I still have an opinion. And so I'm not going to hold that against you that you can't be here because I know that you're working your ass off,
Thank
and
you.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate
So, and I hope that stands in the record. So your peers I've spoke to, and the reason I was so passionate about this tax was because my dream was to have a Rocky Top in Farragut, knowing full and well that a hotel tax from just Farragut and the monies being raised would not cover that. We'd have to find investors, which is fine. We pack away the capital, and we become very attractive the more capital that we pack away to partners. And so I have struggled also. I think I've made my disdain of the idea of Facebook videos drawing people from 4 hours away from Knoxville or Farragut to come stay in our hotels is, I just don't see the logic. It's not going to happen. But I do know that sports tourism, I'm trapped. I take my kids there. I go to Muncie, Indiana. I look out at cornfields and pigs. I eat at McDonald's because it's the nicest place to eat. And I generate sales tax.
Absolutely.
And so I'm having a hard time. And then when I look at our budget, my impression was this first budget is really more of startup activities that maybe you all might not see. But I will wholeheartedly fight this tax if the monies are not invested in keeping our hotels full. And I know I'm a government official, but I will make a promise to you.
Okay.
So this is the time for y'all to come back up here and tell me, what do we have to do with this money to keep the rooms full? Because the theory is, and we all know it, it's Economics 101, if your rooms are full, our sales tax is going to increase. And goodness knows, as we talk tonight, we need more sales tax, whether we like it or not. And that's not your problem, that's my problem. And I didn't create the problem, but it's here, and it's going to smack us in the face if the town of Farragut does not do something. So, Darren, you're welcome to come back up to the mic again, or if you all want to think about it, or if the hotel owners come up, I would love to hear your ideas of what we do with $450,000 a year. Because we can actually, in my opinion, one more thing too, $275,000. My God, we're paying $8 million for a park. We probably could cover at least half of this expenditure from just normal operations and not take monies from this sacred fund for tourism and cover this. So go ahead.
And like I said, we love sports, and Darren's right. We could have smaller things, but you've got to cut off all community access for multiple weekends a year. And I walked Bob Leonard Park this morning. Beautiful facility. I love the layout. But sports, it's an arms race. And you've got to compete.
But you've grown businesses, right? But you've grown businesses. Don't you have to start small? I mean, I think we just demonstrated our commitment to sports tourism. We just gave $15,000 to the first national sports volleyball tournament. By the way, all you hotel folks, I need links to your hotels so that we can put on the registration screen of about 800 folks who'll be coming here to play, links to your hotel so they can register at your hotel. That is why I'm doing the tournament, because God knows I don't have much free time. So in my mind, tell me more about sports.
So you have to you can't start small. I mean, to get the level
I mean,
of impact that you want on the occupancy side, there's got to be a large capital investment, because most of these big baseball, soccer, volleyball, it's 6, 8, 10 fields, courts, whatever, going on simultaneously.
Right.
And most of the big events are controlled by a small number of group leaders across the country that you've got to get in with, and you've got to convince them why not to go north of Atlanta to a field complex they've been going to in East Cobb for the last decade, and come to Farragut. And we can't say, well, bring a third of your tournament here and then bring 2/3 10 years from now and then the rest.
Right.
No, they're going to stay where they're at. So I'm not saying sports is the answer. I'm saying I love sports.
I say sports is the answer. It's about the only answer I'm going to agree with.
And my advice would be find money then, because 450 won't put a dent in it.
No, it won't, but we do a pretty good job partnering with different folks.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
We've got your back. We'd
Well,
be
I
happy
need,
to
will you
help
do me a
in any
favor and
way
send
there.
me your link? I'll reach out to all of you. So I need to get your links to this registration so we can get it posted. All right, thank you.
Sorry, I thought I only had 5 minutes.
No, this is your time to
We've been
speak. We want to hear
asking
from you.
questions.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. So I can answer as many questions?
Absolutely.
As long as we've got questions you can answer, yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just going to, I agree with your point of view, which is why I am struggling with this 3% right now. We have no plan. We have no plan for what we're envisioning here. This is a massive amount of money. It's purchasing land. It's building a building. It's understanding what is going to be successful here. We have no research. We have no input from professionals who do this to understand, is there a niche we need to explore? Because we already have Pigeon Forge and what they've got going on. Is that, can we duplicate that, or do we need to go somewhere? We have nothing to establish a 3% tax when we have nothing is going to put our hotels that are currently, he's got his groups, we're going to suck them dry while we're trying to figure this out. We do not have a plan to go forward with sports tourism right now. And we cannot put this, we
Okay.
can't put
Louise,
this
you need
on
to speak
them
for
right now.
yourself, because I've done my research and I've shared it with you all multiple times. All right, and I also live this
It's
every
not
week.
been shared
I'm
with the
not-
people that are truly
Let's have
gonna sell
order,
it.
okay?
If you'll answer my
We're not
phone
gonna argue
calls,
here.
then I will absolutely share it with you. And if you want to go to lunch, I'll be more than happy to take you and Darren to lunch, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. I would prefer a written plan disclosed to all of us, and a public disclosing of said plan. I still have lunch with you, man. I'm all about the
Because I love
lunch.
to eat, so
I'm good with
apparently you do too, so that's cool. So,
Good with
yeah, so, but sometimes when you come up with a plan, sir, you have to include the ideas of the people that it affects. So if we go to lunch, I need your ideas more than I need to just present to you what I think you need to do. You need to tell me what you want done.
Then we're not approving that tax tonight then.
We're not ready for that.
So I'm game. Anywhere you want to go.
All right, let's
Any
do
other
it.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Amit Patel.
Good evening. My name is Amit Patel. I live at I just moved, so 12129 Butternut Circle. And I had a lot of points written down.
Which hotel, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I'm with Comfort Suites. And I had a lot of points written down that I was going to bring up. Scott and Darren kind of pointed out much of what I was going to say. But just wanted to point out, we've been in the hotel business in Farragut since 1989. We've developed and managed 3 hotels in the town since, and we've lived here since then. There's been a lot of discussion over the last several years about this hotel tax, but just want to go back. It started with 2 primary reasons, from my understanding, of why we should implement it. It's A, the hotel or the hall tax is going away, and then B, the second reason was everyone else is doing it around us. And so those are the 2 primary reasons that we were given. After that, there's been a lot of issues that have been brought up to justify, like he said, both sides that have been, to me, clouding the issue. And we're not getting straightforward answers from really anybody, in my opinion. One thing I hear, of course, is the one-off experiences as far as how a couple of dollars here and there added to a hotel bill really don't matter. He pointed out why it does matter, and I agree with that. Another thing that I continue to hear is that Farragut hotels enjoy a higher premium daily rate compared to surrounding hotels. I really don't agree with that, and it's not true. I mean, if it were true, I'd love to build 2 more hotels here, but it's just not the case. Also, he brought up that there's a lot of hotels in the pipeline. If you just drive down I-75 from Lenore City, there's Alcoa, downtown Knoxville. There's a ton of development going on. It's a scary time right now for hotels. We have no idea what's going to happen, and to be honest with you, things could get pretty bad. You never know. We could hit a downturn. I mean, things could get pretty ugly with all the supply in the market. Another thing I keep hearing is people trying to convince us that they know what's best for the hotel business. We've been doing this for a long time. We feel like we know what we're doing. The Tourism and Visitor Committee, they mentioned in the memorandum in support of the hotel tax the following. It is illogical. This was their conclusion. It is illogical for hotel owners to argue against a small tax that may increase occupancy rates that more than offset an increase in average daily rates, especially if Farragut hotel tax is kept lower than hotel taxes at Cedar Bluff and Lenore City hotels. So let's just think about that just for a second. Well, I think it was well-intentioned, that statement. I think that kind of hits the nail on the head, and it shows that those making these recommendations aren't well informed about the hotel business. First of all, a tax added to hotel revenue would increase a customer's total spend. It would not increase their the average daily rate. On the contrary, it would actually, like Darren pointed out, result in a decrease in average daily rate because the hotels would be eating the costs and lowering their average daily rate just to fight for that business. So, just want to point that out that, I don't think there's really still, after all this time, a true understanding of the hotel business. And on a side note, that board is made up of 2 hoteliers out of 9 members. Lastly, regarding the budget, that's been brought up, we have a budget, but my question is, how much additional tourism are we going to generate? Is there a projected amount? Is there data to back that up? Can that be shared? Who do you envision coming to this visitor center? I think he kind of gave an example of who we envision.
There's no
Not
visitors.
doing
center.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. What locations are we pointing these visitors to with $500,000 signage? How many sports teams do we currently host on our fields? How much do we generate from that via tourism? How many teams and tournaments will we potentially host by spending $1.2 million on a diamond field or redoing it? How much money is projected to be generated through tourism on that? Is there data to back that up? That's questions that we all have. What's going to be generated from this? And that's what we don't have. All we have is a budget. So my question is this, just bluntly. Is this actually, just straightforward, is this a means of improving facilities to increase tourism truly? Or is this a means of improving infrastructure just for the local community in disguise? Because to me, I just have this feeling that it's not going to increase tourism, and it's just going to serve the local community, which is I'm part of this community, but I just want to know straightforward, and I think everyone wants to hear that answer as well. So all I ask is just we be straightforward about that. I don't think the town's in a position where we're in a deficit or in that major of that big of a trouble spot. If we are, we need to have a bigger conversation. There needs to be more going on if we're in that deep. If we're in trouble. So in my opinion, the town of Farragut's not a tourist destination, nor do the citizens want it to be. Let the free markets do what they do best, without taxation to create an additional unnecessary revenue stream. I'm not saying abandon this tax, because that would be unfair of me to say, don't ever bring this up again. What I'm saying is really, after 7 years or however long this has been, there's still work that needs to be done. Alderman Meyer, you said that there's, you're even conflicted as far as what we need to do. I love sports, just like he mentioned as well. We all love sports.
I think just for me, it's so, and I'm open to let it go. I'm open to vote against it, actually. I know, because I live it all the time. and I have that kind of special experience that maybe other folks up here don't have, and I know that I contribute to sales tax, and in my opinion, we're not in dire fiscal straits right now, but the trends are turning negative, and we need to do something about it. So here's my question, though. So again, I hear y'all wanting a plan. To me, a budget's not a plan. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Usually there should be an action plan. There's studies done, as the vice mayor's mentioned. I know y'all are busy, but I am too. But if we wanted to come up with a plan, would you all actually come to the table and help us develop one that would return the money truly to activities or events or capital investments, whatever, that will help increase your occupancy?
I think that would be
Because
great.
I think I've said it till I'm blue in the face. That is really the only way I'm going to support this tax, is if you're not getting your occupancy increased, because I'm not going to use this money, and I've said this 5,000 times, and I know it's insulting, but I'm not going to use this money to create Facebook videos.
I think that would be great, but I think we all
I'm gonna
have to
do
be
it.
realistic about this. Like Scott mentioned, this is going to take some big money to do something that's really meaningful and actually generate true tourism and put heads in beds. It's going to take some serious outside money, and I know that that's always a possibility, but there has to be a plan in place and at least something in place before we go ahead and pass
I hear
something
you,
like
so
this. 'Cause
if y'all
right-
keep saying there needs to be a plan, I've asked you, will you all participate in it, yes or no?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not coming to tell you. I've actually had lunch with a couple of y'all, and when we had lunch, y'all seemed really supportive of it, and that's why I moved forward with this.
And-
So I think I have come and asked you multiple times, not you personally, but different hotel owners
I-
and operators for their opinions, and that's why I've come to the conclusion I have. So if you will be part of the plan and you'll commit to it, I'm totally fine with stalling this until we can come together as partners and come up with a plan. I agree with you 100%.
And I admit I haven't been to as many meetings as I'd like to be.
Well, you're busy,
but,
and I got
but
that.
it seems like
You're good.
But it seems like it's the same points that I hear, and it's almost at some points you get exhausted.
So if it was a special meeting, maybe it was a meeting to develop an action plan with brainstorming, and we would shut up. We would not give you our opinion, and you would just come and tell us what we need to do.
I think
And put in the plan, would that be?
good progress?
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, can I ask you, because I really am coming from a really very different direction, because that takes such big money that if we're going to have that plan, that's something in the future that we have to really work through and figure that out. In the meantime, like you indicated, we have, what did I do? I have 7 hotels under construction, they're increasing the inventory, 870 rooms. We have up to 15 hotels going to be online by December 2022. Oak Ridge and Lenore City are opening new hotels. And I feel like, and I wrote out some of my comments, that we are losing our visibility in the marketplace. Farragut is kind of getting lost in there, because for a while there, we were it. There wasn't much going on around us, and with the draw for business travelers, they're looking for a place that they can shop, and so we had that natural draw. We're losing that visibility, and I don't know how we as if we implement a hotel tax, and I'm thinking small, like 1.5 or 1.25, which was really what I thought we could maybe do, something that was going to, hello, Farragut's here, come here. What does that look like? Do you see, is it digital marketing? Is it even worth trying? Because I feel like you guys all have your own marketing efforts, but we need like a cohesive, coordinated marketing effort for that area.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just as an example, with our hotels that we have hotels in Oak Ridge, they have something big that people are drawn to in Oak Ridge, which is the rowing. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, really, I mean, as far as I don't know what a small amount of money can do. I really don't know how meaningful that would be, as far as,
Keep in mind
maybe we
that-
could do some website marketing, and I think we're already doing that anyway. But other than that, I mean, it takes something big.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because I think, with all due respect, Vice Mayor, the marketing efforts from the town, I don't think businesses need government to market them. I just don't. And I just won't vote for that. I mean, y'all know business, right? I'm a business guy. I understand what you're doing, not what your business, but I understand the challenges. I understand when you have to have an action plan. I also understand that you're very independent and you don't need me. You don't need us standing in the way. And again, my heart really was to figure out a way to take this money and really bless you all so that we could get more sales tax. And actually, I have friends whose kids who row. And so if they're not rowing, they're volleyball. And I'm telling you, it works, doesn't it? Because Oak Ridge is making a boatload of money off of the rowing teams.
People spend a lot of money on rowing.
You better believe it.
It's big money.
So I guess but let me just finish up. I am not going to support the government marketing businesses because they don't need it.
Okay. I mean by creating, we have a community center coming in that has event space that could be utilized. And now I don't know how this works. You know the business better than I do. Small conferences or weddings, or we could have somebody who is required to be, we hire them to be the marketing agent for that, and they're going out and they're finding these small conferences or these weddings, or is that something that's a draw?
I actually honestly think most people in that position who are looking for space like that, they're going to contact the hotels directly, and then we would be the ones to send them to the community center. I think it would really be, I think primarily, in my opinion, that would more cater to the local community as far as weddings and things like that. And we all know that weddings typically, they'll block 20 rooms, but 5 people will show up to them.
I understand that.
And
I'm
things like
looking
that,
for something
but-
bigger, like a corporate conference. Are you ever going to see I'm just trying to get information from you to understand what is our ability to leverage our community center to help our hotels. Is there something there? Is there something there that's even explorable enough that it's going to bring some kind of some business to you, and if we're doing it on a consistent basis, it's of value?
I personally don't think so, but I think that we'll find out. I honestly don't think that we're going to see much increase in business from that.
And that's okay, because
Yeah.
it's a community center.
Well, I know that,
know,
but I'm
we can't-
just curious as to what are the assets that we can explore, because right now we have Farragut, the UT football games, and they come in, they stay, and that's something that we've promoted. And then, of course, the concerts are coming in, and we've promoted that. And the bus, I guess there was confusion. There were so many people that the bus didn't even make it to all the hotels. So there's something there that we need to be coordinating with to say, okay, we didn't have enough buses for this.
Point of clarification, did the town pay for the buses, or did
No.
y'all do it? So who's we?
They don't pay for it.
The guests pay for it.
The guests pay for it.
It's an out third-party company.
How did the town coordinate that?
But if there's
Were
a
y'all involved in
situation,
that?
if there's a situation where there were so many people involved in it, and the buses, they didn't have enough buses, that's something where Karen's, okay, hey, we need 4 more buses here. We had this much activity. Now, does that mean we have a 3% hotel tax or a 2% hotel tax? I don't.
In my opinion, like the bus service, that's just an added amenity, but it's not why people would be staying at choosing our hotels. Really, the reason they're choosing our hotels is because of our price points. So we just have to be strategic with our price points when we price games. If we have a 2-night minimum stay versus a 1-night minimum or 1-night stay, and then rate. It's just all a rate game at that point.
I want to add a couple of things, if I may. First of all, the fact is that Karen Tyndall has attended over the past 2 years, two courses that she's graduated from to help with the planning, with managing this money that would come in and towards trying to help your businesses, trying to help the hotels. So we have someone that's educated in that area and someone with some good knowledge that we need to put to work, and we can't put it to work unless we have a budget, and we have a budget, and this source of money from the hotels is going to be used for that. The other thing is we're looking at short-term and long-term. We have no plans to build a visitor center right now. We have no plans to expand our park fields and so forth. We're looking at the venues we have and the facilities we have currently, and how can we use those to help the hotels. So we want to make sure you all understand that. We're not looking to put $400,000 into a visitor center today. That might be 5-10 years down the road. And building fields, that might be a few years down the road. So what can we do with what we have now? And how can we help the hotels? The other thing is, and I didn't mean to put Mr. Pesci on the spot before when he was up there about attending meetings. My point was, we've gone through this before where we've met and you're here saying we want to be involved. Then we leave here, we postpone things, and then we have a tourism meeting or we have a workshop. We invite the hotel people and nobody shows up. So this has happened time and time again. And now it's time for us to make a decision. You come in and say, well, wait a minute, you don't have a plan. You're not involving us. Well, we have been trying for 2 years to get y'all involved.
I guess
and it's just not working.
I guess my response to that would be, I guess after all the interactions that we've had, I feel that we're still not connecting as far as being able to, as far as your understanding of our side of the business.
It would help if you were to get with us, sat down and talked to us as a group, not one-on-one, but as a group.
But at the same time, I feel that may be, your responsibility as well to come up with the plan. If there's a real, urgency to pass a hotel tax, I feel that that's the due diligence that should be, it should be pretty straightforward, clear cut. There should be a vision. There should be a goal on how much tourism we're going to generate, how much revenue we're going to generate. That's what we don't have. So we can't really go anywhere until we have a goal that we're trying to achieve. Right now, we just have how much we're going to spend. We don't know where we want to be.
Based on occupancy rates, all of that was at the last meeting. At some point, we can't get, 5 yards from the finish line and back up 20 yards.
So I guess we've never been told, how are we going to measure the tourism growth? What's going to be our measure?
The city and the country would ask that same thing. People in Pigeon Forge ask the same thing. The people around Rocky Top say, Rocky Top, show us those big dollars that you promised us when we partnered with you and we put this big thing in. And it's very difficult. There's 500 different things that say they're drawing. So we would have that same difficulty like any other city. And Karen, if you have anything on how you would try and quantify that, although there's still, when those cities that are designed to do those things can't prove those points, it's going to be tough to prove.
Right now,
hold on a second. Let me. I'm so sorry. So the city of Sevierville completes an economic study every weekend. K2 volleyball club has a national tournament. So I don't know what you're talking about, Drew, but if Sevierville can figure out the economic impact of the volleyball tournament, then so can Farragut.
They've got the budget.
Well, so we've got to start building it.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do.
What we're trying to do is start.
Oh yeah, but the problem is that we have a lot of marketing, and apparently we're double dipping and tripping over each other. And I will make this comment, and I wasn't going to, but why not? So I've had comments from that. I have a lot of power lunches. I meet with a lot of folks, and I've gotten feedback from folks who used to be on the tourism committee who opted to drop off. And the reason being, and they were kind of in the hotel world, and the reason they dropped off is they said they were sick of being told that they couldn't do anything because they didn't have a budget. So I'm wondering if maybe there's some truth to what you're saying, is that when we have meetings, maybe we as a town tell you what we can't do, and we don't listen to you in terms of what you all want us to do. You're right. You said we're not connecting. Is that true?
I do believe that. For example, billboards, even billboards coming up, every hotel is different. The Hampton Inn may have a different need than the Super 8. Every hotel is different, but that's just, that's elementary, but that just kind of goes to show that you can't just paint with a broad brush and just.
I would tell you in most marketing classes today, you're not going to hear a lot about billboards being effective in marketing tools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Markley, would you like to speak? Okay. The next one is Trent Walkers.
I'm Trent Walker. I'm at 1004 North Campbell Station Road, 11763 Snyder Road at the Fairfield Inn and Suites here in Knoxville, here in Farragut. One of the few businesses that this proposal affects. I just had a few words to say. I understand I've been coming to these meetings as often as I can for over the last little bit, and I understand that there is, it's almost inevitable that the tax is going to happen. So we understand that. I understand the need and to implement the tax in order to build tourism to the area and build sales tax revenue. The challenge remains how to best accomplish this. From experience, overnight tourism, which has got to be the goal of a tax that hotels are going to collect, would be an overnight tourism, requires some sort of facility or hosting of multiple day events to succeed. Without these, you will not be able to make this tax productive or growth oriented. When studying the proposals, it seems that a 2% tax would allow a highly productive, fully funded effort to attract people to the area. We all know once they get here, they are well taken care of by the amazing teams at all of the hotels, restaurants, retail shops that Farragut has to offer. At 2%, this would allow the few hotels that are collecting this tax to keep a small but significant competitive advantage over the surrounding areas. If I'm looking at this correctly, we'll actually be at a disadvantage at 3% because other areas offer discounts, et cetera, to the hotels on collecting the tax. So we're paying a full 3%. We're losing, actually losing all of our advantage that we have now and actually having a little bit more of a disadvantage.
Explain that, please.
So
you're saying some sort of kickback, or
paying, when we collect the tax, when they pay it in, they get a discount on payment terms, collecting of the tax, et cetera, on paying when they pay the tax in. And it's a small amount, but it is significant. I didn't see that available to us. So I just want everybody to understand that we're very proud to be in Farragut. This is a great place to live, a great place to work, great place to have guests and be able to send them to the local establishments. I mean, it's just phenomenal to be here. We proudly send our guests to all of the choices that we have in this immediate area. We provide a significant portion of the current demand that the rest of the community enjoys. We contribute significantly to the current successes of Farragut, and we will proudly be a part of its future successes. I ask that you allow us to retain a small advantage and support a 2% tax, which would satisfy the proposed budget. We have recently gotten a lot of competition within a 15-mile radius. We need some consideration to simply maintain current levels, much less grow. The 2% tax could help us all accomplish this increased demand that we're looking for without placing too much of the burden on a small but significant business community in Farragut. We're all facing increased competition as our surrounding area continues to grow and expand, and we are happy to help with the collection of this new tax, but please try and help us keep a little bit of an advantage. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Trent.
So can I ask you a question? Sir, Trent, sorry.
Yeah.
So if you had $450,000 a year, how would you want us to use it?
We run into the same thing that everybody that comes up here runs into. What are we bringing people to in Farragut that's going to cause them to stay the night? It's got to be multiple day tournaments. It's got to be something of that nature, multiple day business meetings, anything like that. But it's got to be things that keep people here overnight for the tax to be effective. Otherwise, it's benefiting, if you're bringing people into Farragut for the day, it's benefiting the entire community except us.
Right.
Is the community center going to help, in your opinion?
I'm sorry?
Is the community center going to help, in your opinion?
I was actually pretty encouraged by the community center. It looks nice. I'm anxious to get over and tour it. I saw a basketball court in it, basketball tournaments that are multiple day tournaments. Yes, absolutely.
Next Thursday, be there.
I mean, even if it's a small amount, it will still help us. It will bring people to the area.
That's why I think we've got to start small, and that's what we're trying to do, is get this thing started, see what works, what doesn't work. Can we add somehow to a venue without putting a lot of money into it right now, because we don't have money budgeted for improving these?
Well, and capital investment is expensive. I mean, we all understand that, and a small hotel tax is not going to do that for us, and we know that. But if you market these multiple day, you need people staying overnight. It not only helps the hotels, but it helps the entire community because they're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, every meal right here in our community.
That's what we're asking our tourism coordinator and staff to try to come up with, is ideas, and that's why we need your help, because, I mean, she's going to school, she's learning what she can, but now she's got to apply it. We need your help. We have some venues, we're going to have some money for marketing.
I would suggest a hotel association for Farragut. I mean, we are all members of Knoxville and Visit Knoxville and all that, but we don't get anything.
Great idea. How do you do
We
that?
really don't. It's very, very minimal, the impact you get from being being in Farragut and being members of those organizations, because as Darren spoke to, it goes from city center out. All of the demand does. So, I mean, that's.
So how does that get started?
I'm sorry.
How does a local hotel association get started?
I mean, you need it. You need someone to organize it and put it together. And I mean, we all talk to each other on a regular basis, or pretty often anyway. So
That's what we need.
But a hotel association would help us if that's the goal of the area. So that the hotel association would help that incredibly. And I don't even know if that would, I mean, you're talking about minimal funding for something like that.
But we need that communication. We need
Absolutely.
group
Most
effort.
of us feel like we've just been not heard, honestly.
And we're trying to hear. That's the point. We're trying to get. That's why we keep inviting you. I'm not going to talk to you specifically again. Talking to all the hotels. We're trying to invite the hotel operators to our workshops, to our meetings, so we can get this feedback, so we can move forward with a good plan. We think we have a plan, but it may not meet your standards because we don't have enough input.
Yeah. You have a budget, but that's part of a plan.
Part of a plan.
So
it's as good as we can do right now without getting started. We need to start this thing. We need to get it moving.
But I mean, that's the focus has to be on getting people to stay in the community for multiple nights.
We all
Which
agree.
is that's the goal, and
We're
we're all on board with that. That is the one thing that has. This is about heads and beds. Visit Farragut is about heads and beds. Shop Farragut is about local community stuff. Visit Farragut has to be centered around the hotels, getting people in for more than one night, and but we understand we're in this
Or even
we're
one
in the
night. I mean, 'cause
suburbs.
most people come to Farragut for the day. They'll come, they'll do their shopping.
It's a
and
start.
they'll leave.
Yeah.
It's a start.
It's almost a curse, right?
Stop for one night and they enjoy themselves. They're going to be back again.
Absolutely.
And then maybe next time they'll bring their
You've got-
family.
You've got award-winning hotels here, and
We
we
agree.
all take very good care of our guests, and our teams take very good care of our
Our
guests.
issue is, once upon a time, we were founded without a property tax, and that is our goal has been to maintain that. And I don't know if we're on a slow path to a property tax, but from my point of view, we should have made sure that we explored every opportunity we had to make the best of our businesses. Not here, I don't want to depress your business. I want what's going to make your
The tax
business
collecting
thrive.
and paying is a burden, but it's something we're all used to. It's not going to be a major undertaking for us, but the point is
But
to
it
be
needs to
collecting
serve a
that to help
purpose.
everyone else in the community when we get no benefit.
It needs to
is-
serve
is
your
unacceptable.
purpose. It needs to serve your purpose of your businesses. That's what it needs to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's 9 of us out of the thousands here in Farragut. I don't know how many businesses
Serve
you have
our
listed,
purpose.
but there's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And there's 9 of us that are going to be collecting this and paying this tax. Everyone else is exempt from it.
Well, I sure thank you for coming up with the extra rooms that we needed for the Children's Defense Fund group.
Absolutely. Every year.
That was a great event. We have to thank Julie and
That went well.
and everybody for bringing that in. And that's the kind of stuff that we'd like to go after. Scott's got a program that's coming up that will be a pilot program for the sports, that being actually a
That's the kind of
conference
investment-
tourism.
That's the kind of investment this should go towards, is bringing in sports. A swimming facility would be fantastic. The closest one is downtown
Talk to
Knoxville.
our community would love that.
My daughter, I used to take my daughter to swim meets when she was young.
Yeah, I think
it was
we all
every week,
went
and
down that path.
I feel your pain, it's a lot of traveling, a lot of staying in hotels. So a swim facility, there's not one really anywhere close to here. There's a good idea.
I found it
Just gotta
shocking
find an
that Knox,
investor that's willing to.
I didn't realize that Knox County schools, I guess none of them have swimming pools. Is that true?
That's correct.
That's true.
My
That's correct.
goodness gracious.
Well,
I
yeah,
never
you would
dreamed.
need
kids go-
Olympic-style, competitive pools.
I just grew up in a cornfield in Indiana, and all of our high schools had tennis courts and pools. My kids go to private school. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Okay, thank you a lot, Trent. We sure appreciate it.
Speaker is Jolene DeWald.
Good evening. I'm Jolene DeWald, 626
Again?
Brochard Boulevard. And I'm here tonight. I've been following the hotel motel tax since it started back in 2013-14, when I've been here for about 15 years. I was a meeting planner in Washington, and so I've spent a lot of time negotiating with hotels, and I do understand where they're coming from. From the citizen resident side, I'm very much in support of some type of a hotel motel tax. I don't know what percentage it should be. I'm not necessarily in favor of the 3%. I think maybe a lower rate might be more appropriate until we do get a better plan. But I do think, as a resident, I would much rather see a hotel motel tax as opposed to going down the road and having to look at either a special assessment or a property tax. And so, but the other reason I came tonight is because, and I understand that the author is in the audience, but I was horribly offended this morning when I read the Farragut Press and read the editorial. I thought it was demeaning to the board. I thought it was demeaning to the mayor. And as an individual who does support this, I thought it was very offensive to me for some of the allegations of possible discrimination and bigotry. And I just wanted to address that in a public forum, that I don't think that has any role in Farragut politics or issues. And I expect better from both our past and our current board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Jolene.
And our last speaker is Bob Markley at 424 Heathermore.
You plan to speak, Bob, or are you going to let it ride?
What's that?
You plan to speak, or are you going to let it ride?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Bob Markley, 424 Heathermore Drive. Well, I just wanted to speak tonight. I'm not here to be disagreeable. I'm here as a neighbor. I want to speak to everybody as neighbors. I love this town. I've lived here for most of its history. I've known all 4 of its mayors. Almost half of that time I've spent in service to this town, either on the board of mayor, aldermen, or on different committees and whatnot. And during that time, I've observed a lot of things. And I really wonder a lot of times, what makes Farragut work? How come it works so good, almost in spite of ourselves? We do a lot of stuff wrong, which is understandable. We're kind of new at this. I mean, this town is new. We're learning. There's not a Farragut rule book that we had to follow. We're figuring this out as we go along. But what I'd like to do tonight is maybe to help everybody consider something that perhaps hadn't occurred to us. And this has just kind of occurred to me in the course of watching this drama unfold. I think we may, all of us, be kind of missing the mark. We're talking about this hotel motel tax. We're talking about promoting tourism. I'd rather say promoting Farragut, promoting our businesses. And all these members of the hotel motel community, they're our neighbors. They're our partners. They're part of this community. They're part of what makes it work. And I think really, I hadn't really thought about it. It's good we have these kind of discussions. Why do we have all these hotels and motels in Farragut? Anybody answer that? Farragut's not the major crossroads. It's not a major anything. But all of a sudden, we've got 9 hotels. We've got the best accommodations in town. And there's a reason why that happened. And anybody on this board studied economics? I know, Scott, you have. But one thing I've noticed about economics, and one thing I learned is that whatever you support, subsidize, or encourage, you get more of. Whatever you penalize, you get less of. If you want more bushels of wheat, you don't tax the cost of production. And then we look at what these hotels and motels, I've actually heard somebody on this board, it was years ago before anybody here said it or was on this board, that said, well, what do we have to attract businesses to the town of Farragut? We can't offer TIFs, tax incentive, tax incremental financing or anything like that. I thought about that. We are a TIF. Farragut has tax increment financing. We have the best tax situation in this whole area. That's why these shrewd businessmen have chosen to locate here. That's why they've invested here. And I think that as a town that's dependent on sales tax, because we don't want a property tax. I sure don't want a property tax. And I think if we do what everybody else is doing, we are headed down the road to property tax. We say, well, look, everybody else has a hotel motel tax. When you look at Sevierville, you look at Oak Ridge, you look at Lenore City, what is their main source of revenue? 2/3 of it is property tax. 25% of it is sales tax. We're exactly the opposite way around. We're not like other towns. What's working for other people is not what's going to work for us. And just because everybody else is doing it, my kids use that experience on that argument on me, and y'all probably told your kids the same thing. Well, if everybody's marching off a cliff, are you going to do it too? Let's look at what we have. And we have something really, really special here in Farragut. I really believe that. We have something, we are kind of a great experiment, and we are the envy of so many other towns and of every other town our size. I've got a rent house down in Kingston. I pay $2,000 more per year in property tax on that house than I do on my house here in Farragut. Would I want to locate a business in Kingston? I don't think so. So these guys have chosen to invest in Farragut. They have generated an incredible amount of energy. They're the only people drawing people off that interstate, which is a river of gold flowing through our town, 77,000 dedicated trips up and down that pike every year, every day. They're bringing them off the street, bringing them in here. They're our partners. They're in many ways, I don't know what the impact is, but our restaurants, our stores, so many of these things are dependent on these guys, and we're dependent on them. And I don't think that in the name of promoting tourism, taxing these guys is going to be what's going to get us there. And I think where we maybe all are missing the point is we're looking at this as a zero-sum game. We're saying, well, if we don't have a hotel motel tax, we can't promote tourism. But then we turn around and say, well, tourism is such a great driver of the economy. There was one person in here on the Tourism Advisory Committee quoted somebody from Charlotte who said, we're getting back $115 for every dollar we invest in tourism. Man, it's sure great we got a hotel motel tax. Well, I think they're missing the point. If you're getting back $115 for every dollar you invest, why the heck do you need a hotel motel tax? If, like Scott said, if we can spend $8 million on a park, well, let's just invest a little bit of money. Let's make it a budget item if we're serious about it. If we really think this is going to work, if we really think it's going to generate revenues for town, let's make it a budget item. And let's say, okay, we're serious about this. We think we need $450,000 a year to promote town of Farragut. Let's do it. And if this is right, if this tree we're barking up is true, that we're going to get back $115 for every, if we're going to get back $115 million for every $1 million we invest in it, then we'd be foolish not to do it. But we're not going to do it by beggaring our neighbor. Not by picking on these guys, not by singling them out and say, we're going to make you pay for our tourism thing. And I think we've gone back and forth, and these guys say you're not listening to us, and you say, well, you're not talking to us. I think it's maybe because we're going at this the wrong way. So I'd just like to leave that for everybody to think about. These are our neighbors. They're a very, very important part of our economy. We can learn a whole lot from them. And they have done so much to drive this town, drive this economy. We're different from everybody else. And their success is a big part of it. And that's about all I got to say about that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody got any questions for Bob?
So, Bob, I have the utmost respect for you. But I have to say that your article today and the information that you included in that and that you included in the personal email you sent to me in some ways broke my heart. I wish that you could confirm your what I will call ignorant conclusions about my character and any type of hatred for the Indian community. With the Indian American physicians and staff that I work with every day, and I'm honored to serve. But more so, I wish that you would have the opportunity to talk to my 20-year-old nephew, Josiah, who was adopted from a orphanage in Haiti, and ask him if his Uncle Scott is a bigot. But you can't ask Josiah that tonight, because he's somewhere overseas fighting terrorists. And I could not be more proud of my nephew. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't wonder what Josiah is doing. And I pray to God that he will not come back to us in a box. I thought that you were bigger than that. I appreciate your input. It's hard for me to hear your ideas when you attack my character in a way that my children will read in the newspaper that their father is a bigot and their nephew is black. His nephew is black. Their cousin is black. Thank you.
Well, Scott, and everybody in the audience and everybody listening, I want to apologize for that remark. I did not mean to offend anybody. I think this whole discussion has gotten pretty emotional and pretty passionate, and I think we're going at it the wrong way. And mainly, I wanted to make people think: what are we doing here? What is this? What does it look like if we're taking the goose that laid the golden egg? And I apologize for that remark to anyone who's offended by it. I certainly don't believe that of anybody. I don't want to believe that of anybody. I don't want to believe this is a naked exercise in government authority either. I'm glad we're having this discourse tonight, that we're actually talking about this, we're thinking about it, because I think there's a lot to think about here. And I think if you really believe this is going to be best for the town, let's put it to the voters. Let's put it on the ballot. We've got 7 months till an election. Let's let the people, let's get this stuff out there and let people think about it. Anyway, my sincere apologies if I offended anyone with those remarks in the paper.
I think you offended everyone, Bob.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much a consensus across the board and across the neighborhoods. I've had a multitude of just about all day fielded calls about this article that you put in the paper.
Well, first of all, let me say, I never intended that to be in the paper. That was kind of an open letter. That was a letter to you all. I just copied the editor on that, and that was
It doesn't make
for
it
you
any less
guys
hurtful.
individually. Anyway,
It doesn't make it any less hurtful.
No, and I'm going to do something just a little bit different here, because what everybody's seen was not what I seen. Okay, I had a separate 2 sentences that was in the email that Bob sent me, and I'm going to read them. Okay, I hope everybody will bear with me. He says it should not be necessary to remind you that your insurgence on this one issue nearly cost you the office of the mayor, which I'm sure you assumed was foregone conclusion. You might want to consider the razor-thin margins as a signal that this is not something that citizens of Farragut support. Well, Bob, myself and my group of volunteers, and we knocked on the doors of 84 subdivisions, and we talked to a lot of people, okay? And those people got out and voted, and we discussed a lot of things that people wanted in this town. And this is one of the ones that was very high on the list, was let's get the tourism going, okay?
I agree with that.
So for those that are here and the ones that are listening on TV, I think the majority of the people voted because they elected me and not you.
Well, and I think everybody is in favor of improving the town's exposure and increasing revenues for the town. I just don't think this is the best way to go about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to say a few things. You mentioned, I appreciate you coming up and talking, and I appreciate that your apology. You stated that you love this town. We all do too. And when I responded to your email, I appreciate that you're very passionate about this subject. I struggle with this subject because passing a tax, we mentioned after our last workshop, everybody said, oh my God, that was so hard. It was hard, and it should be hard. It should be one of the most difficult things we do. If we are going to do one, it should be done with a lot of thought and a lot of understanding that we're impacting people's businesses. And, but we're here for the same reason. I'm not a politician. I'm not running for anything else. I'm going to serve this community. I love this community. It's an amazing, the story upon which it was founded is amazing. And we've managed to keep it going for 40 years with that initial thought. I mean, it was a wing and a prayer that they were going to get away from what was going on in Knox County and establish this incredible community. Are we perfect? Nope. Never will be. The free market's not perfect. People complain about our tire stores and our auto parts stores, and you know what? That's what free market is. Businesses come in, they look at our market, they say, okay, we're gonna put roots down here. So recognize that the same thing was with our hotels. They came in, they saw this opportunity here, and they put it down. And what we're talking about tonight is it's difficult to wrap around our. I am not a hotelier. I don't own hotels. I have tried to learn and listen and hear, and I'm still in a point where I'm struggling with, we need to highlight Farragut. I'm not sure how we do that. I still don't know how we do that.
Then my question is, then why do we tax and come up with some kind of budget when we don't really know what we're doing?
Build a house, you build it with a foundation. And I think in our last meeting, we laid out the steps of building a foundation. And we started with each budget line, and it was here, and we said, no, everybody up here said, no, chop it down. Get the basics of what we need, the building blocks that we can build on and do more of what you are putting together. I mean, that's costing 15,000, 20? 15,000. And how many people is that bringing in?
Projecting 800 players plus multiply that times 3. So 2,400 folks will be.
That's
I really need your links. I'm not kidding. Do your hotels.
That's not a
September 11th to the 13th to 2020. Pardon me. It's not a UT football. It's a everything revolves around football, right? So it's a away game, right? So, but well, when we go to lunch, we will talk about it. So maybe we'll have a standing. But let's start our own hotel association, and I'll be happy to be the one who initiates it.
I don't know if it's against the rule.
Yeah.
It probably is. Tell me, but I would like to answer. You hit me with a very good question. You asked a lot of people the 450,000. I had some time to think about
Good.
it.
Play it.
Go ahead. Yeah, please. And Bob, thank you for your apology.
So you gave me the question, what I would
Sir.
do with that 450,000 that would put heads in beds, right?
Right.
So after thinking about it, and great question, I'd put it in a CD for 12 months at 2% so that we would keep our competitive advantage. You would allow us to run the business that we know best and keep putting heads in beds. You keep on talking about, the 9 hotels. What if your decision means that 2 years from now, 7 people are paying into that? There's not one new hotel in the room. The day a hotel opens, it starts aging. And our mind shifts to, we're going to have a major capital expenditure every 7 years. Most people in the room operate in multiple cities. We have the decision to make. Do we continue to pump money into an aging asset into a less business-friendly town than we do going elsewhere? So I would put that money, because again, you gave me a gift, 450. We're going to make nothing on it, but we're going to put it somewhere. And we're going to figure it out, because I love the analogy building a house. You build it on a foundation. The foundation isn't made of dollar bills. It's something concrete and solid. So you can't have the money until you have the plan. And you asked me to, why we can't put the plan together. If I had brought to the table and said, hey, we truly believe 3% is going to help us get more money, and we want you to put this tax in, it would have been my obligation to have the plan and have it to you at that point. I've been doing it 26 years, spent 4 years in UT, 22 years in the business. I'm not qualified for that. I love the fact that you're continuing education. You've done a couple courses. There's companies out there that do studies that do recommendations on what demand generators can help spur a town. We can help, but you may get 9 different opinions, and mine may be the worst one of the 9. I don't know that. But what I do know is, you know, right now we have a competitive advantage that we keep on harping on that, again, I don't know that we're connecting, but.
So just to reiterate what I hear you saying, so the $450,000 is roughly based on a 3% tax. You said put in a CD at 2%, but were you really meaning a 2% tax? Give y'all the one.
Your question though wasn't based on taxes.
Right, I was
Hey,
just asking.
here's
Yeah.
$450,000.
I got you. We've got, you know.
I don't think you put a tax in until you have a plan and you have public buy-in.
Okay.
And I will volunteer at the town hall the first Monday morning if you go ahead with this plan, and part of the plan is taking away community centers and community fields and giving them to out-of-staters for the entire weekend and denying your citizens access. I'll volunteer to answer the phone that Monday morning and help field calls.
We do that. The majority of our weekends, a local resident, and it's somewhat of a point of contention, but they can't get on those fields at White Road. They are booked solid. So that has already happened.
Those are local clubs.
There's some local, there's some out of town.
I will tell you though,
But that's not helping us. And if you want,
Right.
the whole point is putting heads in beds and spinning that question to us. My answer is the best thing you can do right now is nothing.
Well, I got to tell
Taking
you,
away an advantage that we currently have.
I got to tell you, with Sue Stoll, who's our director of Parks and Recreation, and Karen Tyndall, what they're putting together, I think it's a start, and I think they're working towards plans. They're working towards great marketing and great advertising right now, and we just need to extend that. We're just getting started, so I think we've got a plan, but it's a small plan. It's in its infancy. You're shaking your head.
You don't get money until you have the plan. I can't go to a bank and say I want to build a $15 million hotel and we think it's going to do well. So give me $450,000 next year to figure it out along the way. It doesn't work that way.
Did you see the plan we came up with in the workshop, the last
Yes.
workshop? Okay.
it's kind of right. Is it right here
Well,
in
we
the
do.
packet? Is this kind of
Well, it's
the
this-
summary and then that? Okay.
We do have a plan. We do have a
We
marketing
have a plan. I mean, it started with hiring a tourism coordinator, which we've done. And now we've started marketing, which we're doing. And it's growing. And they put a budget together, and that's what we worked that through during our workshop.
If it's growing, why in the last 12 months have our revenues gone backwards?
I mean, and again, what I keep hearing over and over from the hotel folks is, we don't need your marketing, right? You don't need our marketing, but you do need our capital to invest in sports facilities that will draw people here from all over the country, don't you?
But we don't have
You
that right
asked
now.
why we
Well,
built
that's
here.
why we set
Yes,
the plan
it is
up.
tax friendly, but the other main reason we built here is the location to demand generators. And the main demand generators are Oak Ridge. In addition to rowing, people always want to go to the 1-night, 2-night events, and that's great. But Oak Ridge National Lab, Department of Energy, ORNL, all of those things. Downtown Knoxville pulls people. The corporations pull people. Sports is great, love sports. But even the best hotel that's doing the best with leisure business, they sell way more nights on total to corporate clients than they do on Friday, Saturday night. They get 5 other nights of the week to work with to field those guests.
Gotcha.
We're not disagreeable. I know I
I don't
probably
know.
sounded at times.
No, you don't. No.
But I've been in these meetings, not always here. I've been in these across the state. I was on the state hotel association for almost 18 years. This topic is, just it comes up everywhere, and everybody loves talking about Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. And the only thing I would ask is, what's their total tax?
I can tell you how much the economic impact came
Can you-
resulted. I can tell you that they brought in $30 million over the course of 5 years based on building Rocky Top. That I can tell you for sure.
But
I can know what the
what's
tax
their
is.
tax percentage?
I
Does
can know the
anybody
tax
on
rate.
the board
I don't
know
right
that?
now.
Of their
Do you-
Pigeon Forge, you mean their
Like you mean the
hotel
sales,
motel
their
tax?
hotel motel tax,
What do you
probably
pay-
more than
what do you
probably
pay?
more than 3%.
No,
right?
but what's your total tax?
When you say total tax, you know, like the
Ours is 14.25,
Right.
Knoxville is
Gotcha.
17.25. Everybody's aspirational goal is to be Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg. So my simple question is, what is their tax?
What's their county?
Severe.
I know the answer.
Give it to us.
total-
We've got time.
I just
Heard with a $30 million impact. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I don't really care what the sales tax is.
12.25 in one and 12.75 in the other.
Yeah.
Say it one more time.
They're nothing we can't compare to each other.
But they also have a restaurant tax, don't they? They have the restaurant,
And respectfully, that's not my job to do that research.
yeah.
We're not asking you
We're
to,
not
okay?
asking you to.
Just-
Okay.
Pondering out loud.
Okay.
Okay, looks
Thank
like
you.
we've pretty well done this due diligence.
Mayor, Johnny, one quick remark, please.
Okay, Bob?
Just very quickly. All you have to do is ride up and down the interstate, and you can see these guys are in trouble. Our neighbors are in trouble. There's hotels popping up all over the place. They mentioned that. One point that I wanted to make that I didn't make is that our tax structure is the reason we can have the high architectural standards we have. It's the reason we can have the strong building codes we have, because we give a competitive advantage to people that allows them to meet those and still be here. And that's just something to think about. We don't want to give that away. We have something that is truly special, truly unique, and I would just hate to see us lose that. Thank you.
Okay. Looks like at this point, we've went through our discussion, and I will now ask for a motion with an amount to be put on the floor.
Mayor, we already have a motion and
Okay.
a second on the floor.
3%.
For the ordinance as it is right now.
I know.
Well, okay.
Motion and a second is 3%.
I can't vote for 3%. I'm just
Well, I'm asking for a motion right now.
The motion's for 3% as it's written in the document.
amended a motion, or
Well, we've got to get
You have to ask me to amend my motion. I'm
got
not
a
amending
motion on
it.
the floor already. I'm just talking.
So you want to amend?
I'm just telling you that I'd love to hear what everybody else is, where everybody else is at. Where are you at, Scott?
As I've said before, what got me excited about the tax is I thought that it could be a unique situation because Farragut's unique, in that the government would actually take the money and pretty much figure out ways to give it back to you indirectly or directly, and that we would get a benefit from it. Because my experience with government is there's usually not a win-win. There's usually take, and I keep give, right, John? So I really thought this would be a special opportunity for us. It's challenging for me to hear from the hotels that they don't need our marketing, and yet when we talk about the plan, it does have marketing. I know it's a foundation. I'm just musing. So, because I believe that we can partner and we can find an investor with a certain amount of money coming in on our side that would show that we'd be an attractive partner. It's my job to prove that to you. At this time, I support my motion.
You support the original motion? Okay.
And I second that motion, so I support my original second.
Drew? You got a comment?
What I struggle to see is I do think it is a good benefit that I'm glad our hotels have enjoyed. But when I see competition set up shop a quarter mile away from a 3% tax reduction, the only thing I can think, if it was that big of a, if it did make that big of a difference, they probably would have tried to relocate a quarter mile down the road. You know, I, like Scott, travel for family nonstop and for work nonstop, and have never once considered, I realize that's two different kinds of travelers and there's probably 5 or 10 different types, but I've never, ever seen a hotel tax rate. I appreciate Karen, Sue, I appreciate all our staff and what they do, and I have a high level of confidence in them, and I think giving them a foundation is the best thing to do. I don't think we have to give them, you know, I think the budget that we put in the last meeting made sense. It was, I mean, it was stripped down to give them an opportunity to start. I think a good point is people aren't searching Farragut. That doesn't happen. They don't start searching Farragut. You do web optimization. You spend a lot of money on when they Google Knoxville Hotel. We've put the money in so that we get Farragut hotels to pop up there, and that should happen from the monies that we're bringing in. Rocky Top would be great. Rocky Top's not happening here. Can we add fields? I'm absolutely a proponent of that, but unless somebody's got a big checkbook, it's going to happen over time. Look what Scott's doing. I mean, that's unbelievable for $15,000, the amount of revenue his tournament is going to bring in. And so if we put our resources, which will be smaller at the beginning, towards things like that, I think we'll see a tenfold return in what we're taking. You know, we've talked about, there were a couple mentions of upgrading turf fields. We have turf upgrades in our budget, not in tourism. I mean, we budget that out for 7-10 years out. It's not a part of the tourism budget.
If it's a change out to a field, which we don't have any plans at this point for any change outs.
Right.
And that's something that the board will need to talk about during the CIP process this year.
Right. So none of this monies is going towards that. I'm in favor of it. The only thing I was going back and forth on is, could we accomplish what we need at 2% or 2.5? I hate to set a program up for failure by not funding it, and that's why I'm sitting here thinking. The last thing I'd want to do is give them, you know, put them up, tell them to go and give them one leg to run on. That would kind of be my concern with backing off to a 2 or 2.5. Those are my discussion notes. Mayor Williams.
Okay, we've heard from most everyone else. My point is, our vision in Farragut was for smart growth without a separate property tax like the city of Knoxville. I think we can all agree that that's not something that we're up for. And as far as going down the road of a property tax, that's another thing that I think we need to try to make sure we stay away from. So when we fund our budget, it's typically from sales tax. That's the major contributor. And when we take money from our general fund to finance the tourism, small amount that Karen's and her staff we've invested in has returned pretty good results. So I'm very impressed with it. I think everybody's very impressed with it. If you came to the meetings and you listened to what was going on, or if you picked up the packet and you looked at what's going on. If not, then maybe you have a different opinion. But with focused tourism, I think we can put more folks in our hotels for overnight stays. Scott's a good example of focused tourism. The program with the kids that Julie and Karen brought in was a type of focused tourism that had overnight stays. And when they do stay overnight, then they also eat. And they typically shop and buy gas at our other local businesses, which generates sales tax. So my thought is to bring focused tourism. It's going to take an occupancy tax that will fund it. And so that's pretty much my position.
Where are you at for a number?
Well, we've got a one on the table. If somebody thinks they can justify less, then I think amendment would be, or we can vote.
Can I call the question?
You can call question.
I'd like to call the question and have the vote, please.
Yes.
You'll need a roll call.
Second to call the question, yeah. You have to second. And then,
Dang it,
I thought I was
good to go.
Okay.
We need to vote on calling the question.
We'll need a roll call vote, please.
we're calling the question.
Calling the questions. Yes.
This is just for the roll call vote.
This is just,
Just to call the
Or
question.
call the question, excuse me.
this is on the vote on the.
This is to end the discussion
debate,
and
yeah.
move to
Yeah.
voting on what was brought up, which is 3.
The 3%,
original-
yes.
Yes.
Alderman Meyer,
Yes.
Alderman Pinchuk,
Yes.
Alderman Povlin,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes.
Okay, you ready? All right.
So now this is the motion on the ordinance to 20-01.
Okay.
3%. Alderman Meyer,
Yes.
Alderman Pinchuk,
Yes.
Alderman Povlin,
No.
Alderman Burnett,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, let the record show that the ordinance 20-01 has been approved on the first reading, 4-1. Okay, next, get my sheet. We will have the town administrator's report.
Mayor, we do have a big day next Thursday planned with our 40th anniversary of the town of Farragut, which is going to be in coordination with our ribbon cutting at our new community center. We're very excited about. Sue and her staff have done a tremendous job getting moved in and getting ready to go, and the construction company is wrapping up, and so we're really excited about getting in there with the senior center for the West Knox County. So anyway, we're ready to go for that, and I hope everybody can attend at 10 o'clock next Thursday. The other big thing that's coming up this year, and we've talked about it a little bit, is the 2020 census. And the census is going to take all year long. They need census workers, so if anybody's interested, they need some workers for the census. But it's very important because every person counts. Every person, there's federal funding involved with the count. There's state funding involved with the count. So it's important people participate in that and get counted, no matter where you live. But hopefully everyone here in Farragut will participate. And with that, that's all I had to report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, David. Looks like we did not have a town attorney tonight, so we'll have no report there. Has anyone signed up for citizens forum?
No, sir.
Okay, if not, then time is approximately 8:55 p.m. And without objection, the January 9th, 2020 Farragut Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting is now adjourned.